Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
On faithful. Yes. USC Student Body Right, USC podcast here on the Put on Waivers Media Group, along with, we also do the Raiders podcast as well, Put on Raiders podcast. But right now we're talking everything USC. In the link below, if you want to hear CC read some stuff about the AFC West and all the moves they've made, go ahead and hit that. I got an article that I wrote there from Sports Time HQ. Also everything USC is here right now on the Student Body Right USC podcast. So the Trojans started their spring practices, and there's been some conversation from some of the media out there, and Colin Cowherd to be one of them. And some people like Colin, some people don't. I have no problem with Colin Cowherd, but the first practice, right? This tweet about the first practice was this conversation piece where everybody said it was flawless. It was one of the best practices ever. All these things, and very limited, if any, media are there. So you're going by word of mouth, all those things like that. And I don't doubt Lincoln Riley's ability to have a quality practice. I mean, obviously he knows what he's doing. He's a really good offensive coordinator. He knows how to run a football team. He ran Oklahoma very well. He's walked his way through the ranks and been able to go from all these different schools now to USC. And he's on the top of the food chain right now. We know all that, but the best practice of all time, the flawless practice. I mean, let's just take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. Let's just relax about what these practices are. I'm sure he knows how to prepare a football team for the rigors of a college football season. We're all excited. We're all super excited about having him over Clay Helton. Nobody wants to relive the Clay Helton era where he was just going after a bunch of different, C+ players. Now USC can go back to being USC and get top of the line players. That's what USC is about. That's what Alabama's about. That's what some Notre Dame, but not really Notre Dame, but some of those Georgia, all those teams like that. I mean, that's what they're there for, to get the big time recruits, to get the big time players to come, and then let the chips fall where they may, as far as the season goes, as far as national championship hopes, all those things like that. So before we go, before we hit the wide receivers, I just want to kind of just make that statement about the spring practices. You're going to see some players still come, players still go, because they're still going to be moving people through the transfer portal back and forth, just getting that roster just right. So when they play Rice in that opener and then have to go to Stanford, they're ready to go. I mean, and that's what it is. You can't get two more distinct, different teams to start a season for SC than you're playing Rice, who you're going to blow out by 30, and then all of a sudden you're playing, the 22 personnel, two backs, two tight ends, David Shaw, kind of, pro style, smash mouth football. I mean, you gotta be ready for that, and you gotta get that defensive line ready for that, and you gotta get that the offensive line ready for that, because if they're able to rush the passer, if they're able to disrupt what you want to do offensively, then all of a sudden you're depending on a defense that you're not quite sure is going to be a top-notch defense. They got some talented players in that secondary, some talented players up and down that roster, but we don't know. The question mark around USC, I think one of the biggest ones is the defensive line. Do they have what it takes on a defensive line to really make a big push here for to beat Stanford, to beat Utah? That game's going to be at Utah this year. So Utah's not coming to SC. That game's going to be at Utah later in the season, maybe in cold weather, those kind of things like that. So I'm not doubting his ability. When I say I don't buy the whole, flawless practice, all things like that, I definitely don't want you to do that. I don't want you to think that I'm doubting his ability to run a football team, but I just feel like we're feeling so good that we divorced Clay Helton. and we're feeling so good that we are married to Lincoln Riley that we're forgetting about that. Speaking about Lincoln Riley too, I believe I'll be on the 9th at USC. If you are watching this podcast and you're a high school coach, I believe they are on April 9th having a clinic for high school coaches at SC. Probably a good time to network with other coaches. You have an opportunity to go through go through a bunch of different, like, I think they have drills set up where you can kind of learn some stuff there as well too. So some coaching strategies, what's hot, what's not, all those things like that. When coaches get together, they talk ball. So I believe it's April 9th. If it's not, I'll correct it in the summary in the bottom of this video. But yeah, a good opportunity for coaches if you want to learn something more, network with other coaches. SC, I believe, is holding a coaches clinic on the 9th of April. So you can jump into that as well. So let's talk offense. Let's talk wide receivers, tight ends. And I think one of the guys who I really want to talk about, who I think is going to be a really integral part of this team, could be the tight end, Malcolm Epps. Now, Malcolm Epps is a guy who is, if you've seen Mike Gesicki play for the Dolphins, if you've seen Darren Waller play for the Raiders, that's the kind of tight end he is. He's more of a pass catcher than a blocker, but really a guy who can really stretch the field, can become a red zone target, a mismatch guy. I mean, too fast for linebackers, too big for safeties and corners. So he could be a big target for Caleb Williams and make plays down the field. So that's a guy who I'm very interested to see what they do with him, because he's a very talented player. And, when you're running an offense, you want to be able to dominate the middle of the field. Can you dominate the middle of the field? Can you run the ball right at people? He wants to pull those guards and run the ball right at you. Also, we know about this. We know about the speed on the outside, but can they get plays on the inside? Sometimes that seam pass, the tight ends are really important because they're the closest receiver to them, and the slot receiver are closest to the quarterback. So can Caleb Williams get chemistry with him? I think he's a really good target, a very talented, really, really talented pass catcher. So I definitely look for that. Evan Ingram is another guy who I would say, would be a guy who you can compare him to. If he can block just a little bit, that would definitely help him a lot in this whole concept here of what USC wants to do, because it's not like, oh, Epps is in the game, bam, immediately that it's a pass play, right? I mean, you don't want that part of it too. So you want to be able to run the football when he's on the field, so that when it's time to go pass, he's available and can do something special for it as well. Wide receivers now, Gary Bryant Jr., open field, nice speed guy. Get him in the open field. Screen game is available for him. If you're going to run a little play action for him, he can definitely get behind these Pac-12 secondary guys. Athletic, can do a lot of different things there as well. So I kind of like what he brings to the table as well. So that's something where Caleb Williams, get on board with him. He could be a guy who could definitely help SC and help them, just establish, weapons all over the field. Like, you want that, that pick your poison type kind of offense where, oh, you're going to take this guy away, then we're going to go here. You're going to take the pass game away, and I'll just run the ball all day on you. And I think that's what the kind of offense you want the Trojans to have, is that kind of play here. We all know about Mario Williams. Mario Williams can do a lot of different things. I think he's primarily going to be a guy in the slot, and I like him in the slot because I feel like he's such a dynamic, quick off the ball. It's hard to get when you have a talented receiver like him. Shout out to Better Buzz. When you have a receiver like him, he is so hard to get there, hard for a defensive back to get their hands on. And when you put guys in the slot, it's just harder for the corners to get their hands on them. That's one of the biggest things. And when you look at wide receiver play going against talented cornerbacks, you'll see people like Devontae Adams or Antonio Brown on you'll see, even Drake London sometimes when he was with USC, just go in the slot because it's a very difficult place for the corners to get their hands on the receiver. They can go out there and just make plays. Go out there and just make plays. You miss. That's a quick read for the quarterback to just get the ball to him really quickly. And him in open space, Mario Williams in open space is like, okay, it's just close your, forget about it. Like him in open space is going to be a problem. He's a hands catcher. I don't like body catchers. The only body catcher who was a really like big time receiver who I thought who was very hella productive was Antonio Brown. He had issues beyond issues as far as that goes, but as far as being a hands catcher, body catcher, he just caught the ball with his body. With Mario, he catches the ball with his hands, really just explosive, can do so many different things in the open field. And it just keeps, he can keep the chains moving. He also can be a guy who you can get the ball to on a screen and he can just take it. If you take the wrong angle, he's gone. Like that's it. Like, we all like these, 10, 11, 13 play drives, but to be real, people want to score fast. These college coaches want to get up, score quickly so they can get a lead, so they can get their pass rushers to pin their ears back and go get the quarterback. That's why you want to get a lead. So if they are able to get the ball to him on in breaking routes and all those things like that, he's Deontay Johnson type for the Pittsburgh Steelers, just being able to just get off, just to get open. Hopefully he doesn't develop hands like him, because I think he led the league in drops, and NFL in drops last year or a couple of years ago. But Mario is, we're gonna be calling him Super Mario. If this whole connection between him and Caleb gets through, because I think if you can get the ball to him quickly, get it to him early, get it to him often, that's going to be a really cool combination to see Williams to Williams here, really be explosive unit there for USC. He's in the open field. He's just a marvel. He is beautiful to watch in the open field. He really is. He just kind of a little smaller in stature, and just if he zigs when you zag. His ability to just to get open in breaking routes and all those things like that. He does a really nice job in that. And even though he might not be the biggest wide receiver in the world, he is a very good red zone target, especially against man. So if he can be able to continue that success, and I think he will in this offense, he knows it. So he did Oklahoma. I don't see why he couldn't do it at SC. Brenden Rice, ex-receiver here for potentially for USC, comes from Colorado. We know who his daddy is. That last name should ring true. Perfect complement, to the other receivers in this class. Again, the screen game is going to be available for all these receivers just to get the ball out of their hands quickly and get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. And when you have success on the screens, then you can go down the field, or vice versa. When you go down the field, then the screen game is open. So that kind of complication for the defense to deal with is something that Lincoln Riley is going to be ready to implement here. And these are, when you talk about his offense, these are probably handpicked guys that he's wanted to come over, like guys he's recruited in the past, guys he probably Rice may have wanted to go to Oklahoma, but they were so stacked at receiver that he said, you know what, I'm gonna go somewhere else so I can get some burn. Now Lincoln Riley comes over to SC and look what happens. He has a guy who can flat out burn if he needs to, and may make catches in traffic and do all those things like that, and just be a kind of a different kind of receiver than what things that Mario Williams brings. When you look at your receiving core, you want it to be, people talked about this before. I'm not breaking news when I say this, but they want it to be like a basketball team. That's what they really want it to be, like a basketball team. You want it to be like a basketball team in a sense of 20, you have like 3 or 4 different pieces of the puzzle, like a big receiver, a small shifty receiver, a guy who can go deep, like all these different kind of things you want to see from your wide receiving core. You want to be like having like a power forward, having a shooting guard, a guy who could do a little bit of both, can post up and do all those things like that. So those are kind of things you want to see. And I think for USC, that's going to be fun to watch, how all these pieces fit in with Lincoln Riley in this offense, in this running game as well. And we're going to find out. I mean, we're going to find out really quickly. Can you protect? I mean, everything we can talk about, all these receivers, we can talk about all the running backs, we can talk about all these other pieces, but the bottom line for USC is going to be, can they protect? I mean, if they can protect the quarterback, if they can help Caleb get that ball out on time, then yeah, you got a great chance to do some things here. But if you can't, then it's going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue for them all year. So you're going to find out quickly. I think you're going to find out in that Stanford game, especially. Stanford's not about that hype. They are the football nerds. They come to they wear those nerd glasses at the press conferences, all those things like that. And they might win 4 games, 5 games in a season. But for Stanford, it means a lot to go out there and beat the bigger, stronger, athletic, big team in SC every year. So that's going to be a big test for them early on. I almost wish they played Stanford a little bit later in the schedule. They don't. They play them early, and they're going to have to come out big and come out early. Come out early to obviously they're going to smash Rice. We know about that. We got ways to go before we get to those games, but in the construction of this offense, can they make big plays against a sound football team in Stanford that second game? And the biggest thing about all these receivers, we're all happy about Caleb Williams, who's a guy who could possibly win the Heisman and be a Heisman candidate. Maybe USC has an outside chance of getting in the playoff, but it all starts up front. And we want to, and obviously, SC fans are smart. And our next show will answer a bunch of questions, a mailbag episode for all the SC fans, because you guys have been sending me a lot of questions and I really appreciate it. But can they block up front? I mean, that's the biggest question everybody has. Can they block up front? And if they can block up front, then the sky's the limit for this football team. Don't let anybody try to tell you that they gotta wait. You gotta wait. They have an opportunity to do something special here if they can just take care of business. If they can take care of their business there, that's going to be a huge part of what they do with this football team. So Epps, Bryant, Rice, Williams, some of the skill position players in the passing game who I think are going to have really big impacts for SC. So definitely look for those guys when you're looking at all the things from spring practices on the news and notes. Excited about what they bring to the offense. RTPOW podcast is my Twitter handle. You can catch us on this channel, the Put On Waivers Media Group channel. You can put on waivers. You can put on Student Body Right, all those things like that. Here on the Student Body Right USC podcast, we got all that stuff covered for you. More stuff coming in a couple of days. Probably on Thursday, we'll do a mailbag. Got some really good questions for you. Not for you, but really good questions that you brought to me. So we'll talk some USC football then. But until then, see you next time. Fight on.